I'm Pat Reiff, a professor of physics and astronomy at Rice University, and I'm here to show you how to observe the sun safely. Now, you and I know it's not safe to look at the sun. It's too bright, and the blink reflex that we have keeps us from looking at the sun. So why is a solar eclipse different? Well, the first problem is our blink reflex doesn't help us anymore. It's getting dark. And so, in fact, instead of our pupils small like we do when it's sunny, our pupils are now open wide. But every bit of the sun that's not covered up by the moon is still as bright as the full sun. And so, when we want to observe the sun with our eyes or with our cameras, we have to use either projection techniques or solar filters, so we protect our eyes and we protect our cameras. So what don't we use? We don't use regular sunglasses. They're not good enough. And these are polarized glasses. You might think we could do two glasses and cross the polarization. Not good enough. Now there are special sunglasses that we can use for solar observing, but you need to buy them from a reputable dealer and make sure they have the ISO certification on them. And with these, I can look at the sun directly and protect my eyes anytime, right now when the sun is full or when it's a partial eclipse. Only if you are in the zone of totality and only during totality is it safe to look at the sun with your naked eye or with binoculars. But I want to encourage you to go to totality, because that view of the sun with your naked eye and with binoculars is one of the most amazing things that nature has to offer. So you've got to go there and do it and see it. So here are some things to use if you don't have these special eclipse sunglasses. I'll show you some other things you can find. The most commonly used are called eclipse glasses. And these are not expensive. You can get them from a number of optical stores. There is a website on the AAS.org site that tells you which manufacturers are the safe one, but be sure they have the ISO certification. There are fakes out there, so when you've got a real pair of genuine glasses on, you shouldn't be able to see any lights, not even a bright hallway light. The only thing you should be able to see is the sun itself, or maybe if you look into a projector that's turned on, you might be able to see the filament, but nothing else. So if they're scratched or bent or torn, throw them away. They're not safe. So for children, I like to use Eclipse cards. They're a little larger, and so they cover up more of their face, and they're less likely to see around the sun. One activity you can do with your children is to take a paper plate, embed one of these cards in it, cut a hole so they're only looking through the filter, and let them decorate it. They can be cats or bears or rabbits or whatever they want to be, and they make a mask, and you can hold it on with elastic. And this is a fun activity for your kids, as well as a safe way to let your children observe the eclipse. We want them to see it. This is going to be 20 years before there's going to be another one coming through the United States, so make sure they see this one. Some schools won't let their kids go outside, but you can hang this in a doorway so the students can only see through the eclipse viewing material, and they stay safely behind the barrier. It's a PDF. They can take it to any banner shop. The banner shop was like $29. That included not only printing, but also the framework for $29. And then you can hang it in a doorway or under a overhang. And so the kids can be technically still inside and still protected, but still look through the solar filters in order to get a good view of the sun. There are also special binoculars that come with the solar filter already built in. And these you can buy from a number of places. They're not terribly expensive, but they have the solar filter, and put them in front of your eyes first and then look at the sun. But once you're looking through these, again, you can't see anything but the sun. So how do you find the sun? My favorite way is to face the sun with your eyes closed, get that heat from the sun on your face so you're pointing straight at the sun, bring up the glasses, and then open your eyes, and boom, there it is. But this is trickier for children because it's a small field of view, and it's easy to accidentally look around it and see the sun. So that's why the mask is really safer for kids. Another one I especially like to use for children has a pop-up function. So this is a 2X binoculars. They're made by Celestron, so it's a reputable dealer, but you can get them from a number of places. And what's exciting about them, they're a factor of 2 magnification, so it's better than just looking through the Eclipse glasses. But they fold up, you can put them in a Ziploc bag, and then when you want to use them, squeeze them, and it has a nice big field of view, so you get an easy way to find the sun, and yet it's larger, so you can see more detail on the sun. So these are not expensive and ones I really recommend if you have children. Now, for those of you who own a good pair of binoculars, this is my favorite way to observe the sun. I have a regular pair of binoculars. It's a high-end. It zooms from 8 to 20, but you could use 10x. You don't want to be, again, too high of a magnification because the sun is pretty big. But what's important is you mount it onto a tripod. And in order to mount it onto a tripod, you need this little piece here, which is called a binocular tripod adapter. It goes from the mounting screw on the binoculars to any photographic tripod. But be aware, in Texas, this eclipse is going to be high in the sky, so not every tripod will be able to tip up that high. So practice on the full moon 6 weeks and 2 weeks before the eclipse to make sure your tripod will go up high enough. Now, a tripod like this, if you're looking through it, you need filters on your binoculars. The filters always have to be on the front side, not on the eyepiece. That's true of any telescope, any binoculars. The filters have to be on the front side. If you put them on the back side, they'll burn a hole and they won't be safe. Now, I have 2 different filters on this one. This is a pop-off filter that I bought from Rainbow Symphony. It's great because it can pop right off during totality, and I can use the same binoculars for totality that I do for the partial phase. But if you don't have one of those, you can take one of your pair of Eclipse glasses, cut them apart, and cover up the entire front of your binocular lens. I use gaffer tape because it doesn't leave a mess. Cover up all the cardboard and all the gaps so there's nothing showing except that filter, okay? And then to align it, you look at the shadow. When the shadow is the smallest, that means you're looking straight into the sun. So align the binoculars until the shadow is the smallest, and then look through it and you should see the sun. And now you can use your focus, and you can use your zoom in once you find it. And it's a great, comfortable view. The nice thing about the partial phases, they last an hour and a quarter. So everybody does not have to have their own pair of Eclipse glasses. You can share them. Everybody does not have to have one of these. You can share them. And by having a little step stool then, I can let a string of people go through and get a good look and have the kids stand on the step stool if they're on the short side. So this is one of my very favorite things. Now, another piece that I use a lot in teaching, but unfortunately it's a little expensive, and this is called a sun spotter. So a sun spotter is designed just to look at the sun, and it has lenses and mirrors so that it reflects an image of the sun onto this piece of paper. So I have to align it first by making the shadow the smallest, and then I tip it until I get in this circle, and now I have an image of the sun that's this big, it's huge, on this white piece of paper. And kids can trace the paper, or they can take a picture of it with their phones. It's easy, it's safe, there's no way that they can hurt their eyes, no way that they can hurt themselves at all with this. But it is a bit pricey, but it's a wonderful device and can be used anytime. You don't have to wait for an eclipse. But again, you only use this for the partial phases. So you've got an hour and a quarter coming in and an hour and a quarter coming out. So you've got plenty of time that everybody can get their own good view. What happens if you don't have eclipse glasses? Well, there's other ways you can safely observe the sun. One is by using a pinhole. So you can put a pinhole in a box, but you can also put a pinhole in anything, a piece of cardboard, and look at the shadow of it and see that pinhole on that card is now an image of the sun. And once the sun goes partial, you'll see that change from a round dot to being a crescent. Now, this gives you a view, but it's not a very magnified view. So I've invented another easy way you can do a pinhole which now has some magnification. You take any opaque cup, make a hole in the bottom about 1/4 of an inch, and then you go to your dollar store and buy a pair of 1x readers. With 1x readers, you get 2 lenses, one from each eye. Take one of the lenses, tape it to the bottom of this cup, and now project an image through the cup onto a white piece of paper. Look at the shadow. Now this, because it has a 1x lens, actually goes into focus. And so it makes a much brighter image. You see it's out of focus now, but if I move it down to here, it's in focus. So a 1x reader makes a image at 1 meter. A 2x reader would make an image at 1/2 meter. So 1x is better, and you've got yourself a solar projector for less than $1. But other things can easily make solar projectors. You can take a straw hat and look at its shadow. You can make a cardboard, punch the name of your school and the date, take a picture of its shadow, and every one of those little holes in your cardboard will make a little eclipse image. Now, one of the more fun things to do, if you've got the time, is to take a ball. Okay, get that ball, get it into the sunlight, and now it's reflecting little suns all around me. See if I can do it, see it over there on the ground below. So if this were the eclipse, every single one of those would be a little eclipse. So this is a fun thing you can do without a lot of money and still have a great time. Now don't look directly at the ball because that's a reflection of the sun, but look where the ball shines into. Don't you think this would be fun? Another activity which is great for kids is to use UV sensitive beads. So there are beads that are sensitive to the ultraviolet light from the sun. So when you have them in the darkness, they're clear, but once they see the sunlight, they start turning colors. And you'll see the different colors. So the kids can make themselves a necklace or a ring or a bracelet using these beads, and then as totality approaches, they'll find that those beads become clear again because the sunlight is going away. So that's another fun activity for the kids, is to make necklaces or bracelets out of UV beads. The best way to see a total eclipse is to go to the zone of totality. That's a region that goes from Texas to Maine, but it's only 30 miles wide or so. So you've got to get into that zone of totality if you want to see the sun's corona. Because only if you're in the zone of totality and only during totality will the moon completely block off the sun, and so you'll be able to see the corona, which is the ghostly atmosphere of the sun, appear around that black sun. So it looks almost like a giant eyeball with a black pupil and a white staring down at you. So it's an extremely eerie and spectacular thing to see. And I mean, people, the first time they see it, their eyes go crazy and they start to cry. So how do you know when totality is going to happen? Well, the first thing you need to know is where you are, okay? So go to a website called timeanddate.com/eclipse. Put in your city and it will tell you the time of first contact when the moon first starts to cover the sun, second contact when totality begins, third contact when totality ends, and then fourth contact when the eclipse is over. So the only time to watch the sun with your naked eyes is that time of totality. Now, if you're in the center of that zone of totality, you'll get 4 minutes and 20 seconds. And even if you're halfway out, you'll still get 4 minutes. But don't get too close to the edge, because then the time of totality gets very, very short and you won't have as much time to enjoy it. So try to stay in the middle 2/3 of that zone of totality. Now, while you're watching the sun through your eclipse glasses or through these projection techniques, you'll see that sun get skinnier and skinnier and skinnier and skinnier, okay? If you are watching the sun with eclipse glasses and you see it getting skinnier and skinnier and skinnier and then disappear, you are probably in totality, okay? So you want to make sure everything is dark around you. There will be what looks like sunset all the way around you. You'll be able to see the planets coming out. There'll be Jupiter on the left of the sun and Venus on the right of the sun. So all of those things you only see during totality. But I guarantee you, if you're in a group of people and you're not sure when totality is going to start, wait till you hear everybody cheering. When you hear them cheering, you know it's totality. And then at the end of totality, you'll start to see a brightening along one edge of the sun. And little red dots called Bailey's beads start to appear. And then a bright spot as the moon starts to leave the sun. When you see that last bright spot, that's called the diamond ring. Cover up, don't look anymore. Put your glasses and filters back on, because then it's no longer safe. So your totality could range from 10 seconds to over 4 minutes. So get yourself in the middle 2/3 of the zone of totality so you'll have a good long time to view it. Now, what can you view with during totality? Anything. Your eyes, unfiltered binoculars, unfiltered telescopes, anything you have, you can look. But the best thing is your eyes with binoculars, because your eyes can automatically adjust to that brightness difference between the inner corona, which is very bright, and the outer corona, which is very dim. So if you want to take photographs, you have to take a short time exposure to get the inner corona and a long time exposure to get the outer corona. But your eyes just do it naturally. So don't spend your entire totality in front of a camera. Enjoy it. This is your eyes, your family. Now, one thing I do recommend is setting up one of your local iPhones or video cameras to capture your group's reactions and the oohs and ahs that you say, because it will be an amazing experience for you and your whole group. So don't miss it. Totality on April 8th will be a once-in-a-lifetime experience for most Texans. This is the only eclipse to cross Texas since 1878, and the next one to touch Texas won't be till 2045. So get in your car and go, but be aware there's going to be a tremendous amount of traffic. So try to find your place the day before if you possibly can, and stay till the day after if you possibly can, because the traffic will be incredible. But wherever you are, enjoy it and have a great eclipse.